Good afternoon, everyone. So excited to see everybody here. It does feel a little bit, somebody texted me and said, wow, it feels like we were operating during COVID. That's true. But we all have big smiles on our faces. And so that's all that matters. I'm really excited to welcome you all to one of the highlights of the year, the Hazeltine Mentorship in Entrepreneurship Award Ceremony. Actually, I remember a few years ago when we had no choice but to do this online, and we were uncertain how it would go. It was one of our very first Nelson Center events online, and it turned out to be fabulous. I remember Don Stanford's whole family showed up and had a whole cheering section, and it was like a family reunion because they hadn't seen each other in a little while. And so we just decided, instead of doing this at the faculty club, as nice as it is, it's even nicer to be able to do this in the context of the ether, where we can invite people from all over the world. And we're so thrilled to have some familiar faces, some unfamiliar faces. So thank you all for being here. I will ask the question I always ask, because I think it's important to welcome new people. Raise your hand if this is your first Nelson Center event. For how many of you is this your first Nelson Center event? Inevitably, there always are people for whom this is new, and a special welcome to all of you, because we're growing our community constantly. We're entering our 7th year, which is kind of hard to fathom. And the way we build that community is by inviting new people into it all the time, every event. And so a special welcome to all of you for whom this is new. Thank you for being here. I also want to issue a special thank you. I see Steven Siegel here. I don't want to embarrass him, but the whole concept of an award ceremony that honors Barrett dates back to a time when Steven and Charlie Kroll initiated this, and there were other donors along the way who contributed: Michael Alfont, Peter Damon, Jeffrey Weiss, Chuck Boisseau. And so we always want to acknowledge them. That dated back to even before the Nelson Center existed. So thank you, Stephen. I don't know if Charlie's here with us today, but thank you to those donors. And we really appreciate it, because you were able to foresee something in what might emerge called the Nelson Center. I don't think you even knew that it would be called that, of course, but a real pleasure to have the people who were supportive of this kind of event here today. I, of course, want to acknowledge past recipients, many of whom are here right now, and of course our recipients for this year. I also see Liz Malone, former member of the Nelson Center team here. And so thank you to everybody who's taking time from their busy schedules in the afternoon to be with us today. I'll also mention that if for some reason, I doubt it's true, but if for some reason anybody is unfamiliar with how to keep track of all of our events, you can go to entrepreneurship.brown.edu. Maybe Tori will put that in the, or Katie will put that in the chat, and you can sign up for our email updates. I hope it will help you feel part of our family, part of our community, and you'll come to whatever events might interest you. Those could be in person, they can be remote. And finally, I'd like to acknowledge that there's several members of our advisory council here today, many of whom were with us just last Thursday in New York City at our advisory council gathering, where we honored the Brown Venture Prize winners. So there's too many here to acknowledge by name, but really appreciate your efforts to be here and all the support that you give us. So how about that for all the thank yous? And then finally, I want to acknowledge that Barrett Hazeltine himself is here, as he's been at all of these ceremonies. And we're going to hear a couple words from him toward the end, just so that we can make sure that we put a face, a Barrett Hazeltine face, with the name of the ceremony and with the name of the award. So always an honor to acknowledge Barrett in any of our events. None of us would be here probably at all, let alone doing what we're doing, without Barrett as such a strong supporter. That's certainly true of me personally, and that's of course true of the Nelson Center itself. We're going to move on to the awards. And one thing I'd like to say is the awards are given to people who other people have nominated. And that's because they've had such a strong impact on a very wide range of people. As always, the couple of very deserving recipients this year don't represent an exhaustive list. In fact, we had quite a list of people to choose from, and it's always a real challenge to do that. We imagine we are going to be awarding this same kind of award to the people who've been nominated previously. I don't want anybody to feel bad because we have so many mentors and generous contributors who give so much to our students and to our team. We can't possibly give the Hazeltine Mentorship Award to all of you in one year, but I hope seeing how we do acknowledge some of the really stellar exemplars, I think, I hope will motivate all of you to continue to contribute in all the ways that you do. The way I say it is we have an embarrassment of riches. We have well over 500, mostly alumni and parents who are engaged deeply in their mentorship and serving on committees and helping our students in all ways. When you look at me, you're looking at 20% of our full-time staff. You see our whole full-time staff here. There is no way we could come close to doing anywhere near what we do at the Nelson Center.
I think you're unstable, so Jonas, you want to take it or do
well,
you? Oh.
Anywhere near what we do at the Nelson Center without generous contributions from all of you, I'll channel my inner Danny here. He's 100% right. Looking around at all these faces, I know there are a lot of people here who I've asked for favors and to talk with teams and to meet with students and to help pitch in all sorts of ways, big and small. So Danny's right. We often refer to the Nelson Center family as being the thing that's responsible for making all of this happen, not just the five of us who are here in the center. So absolutely, I want to echo what Danny was trying to say. Without further ado here, I wonder if the best thing to do would be to hand the baton off to you, Barrett. Would that be, well, let's do that. Let's go ahead and do that right now. We can spotlight Barrett.
Well, hi. I'm overwhelmed with the number of people that are here, and I think it's just a great tribute to Daniel, to Danny, and to Jonas, and to Sheila, and to Tori, and Katie, and really to all the entrepreneurs at Brown. And I can't believe it's been 26 years. Again, I'm really terribly impressed with both the quantity and quality of the entrepreneurship work going on at Brown these days. And I'm also impressed with the tremendous usage that the Nelson Center building is getting, that you come in any time. Well, I don't know about any time because I'm not up all the time, but every time I've been in there, it's full of people and they're all working hard, they're all smiling. So something good is happening. So again, I want to thank Steve Siegel for this opportunity, and it would be fun to go through and greet everybody personally, but it would be tedious for the rest. So again, thank you to the audience. Thank you for coming. To the staff of the Nelson Center, thank you for doing this, and congratulations to the two winners of the award this year. And on the one hand, I know it was a hard choice, and on the other hand, it clearly made the people who selected them clearly made a great decision. So thank you.
Thank you, Barrett. I'm sorry my internet is wonky. I have no idea why. It feels like 3 years ago when we were just learning how to use Zoom. I promise you I know how. It's just Don't know why it's happening. I'm going to quickly turn this over to Chuck and ask Chuck to say a few words on behalf of our first recipient, Terry Alpert, class of 85. Chuck, you are class of 21, and it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thanks so much, Danny. Thanks, Professor Hazeltine. Hey, everyone. Wonderful to see so many familiar faces here. And I'm honored to, have this opportunity to introduce Terry, and first off, say congratulations to Terry. As I got ready to go to sleep last night and think about what I wanted to say, I was thinking about something really interesting, which is the fact that Terry has done so much in her career and has so many credentials, and I would need a lot more time than what I've been allotted to talk about all those. She knows about EBITDA margins and building differentiated brands and all these cool technical things. I mean, she was a physics concentrator at Brown after all. Yet in my remarks here, I think I want to talk about anything but her technical abilities. And there's a reason why. Her technical abilities are remarkable, but they're overshadowed, in my view, by her people skills. And when I say people skills, I don't merely mean her ability to manage a team. I mean her ability to mentor people, such as myself, but I know that I'm just one of the many lucky ones who get to benefit from Terry's mentorship as we think about our own careers and the teams we want to build. So I'll share an anecdote, which is this past summer, about a year ago, I was figuring out what I wanted to do next after spending my last year abroad in China, doing a little more school. And I had one job offer and another one on the way. And on paper, they both seemed great and they checked every box. And I was convinced that one of them would have been right. The question was which one was to take. And that was until speaking with Terry. We got on a Zoom call, which I distinctly remember. And I spoke about the job offers that I was contemplating. And she patiently listened, as she always does. You could tell she was paying close attention. And then she made me think about something that no one wants to do when they think they're on the tail end of a job search. And that is to start a new job search. But there was a reason. Terry wanted the best for me, as she always does. And she could tell that these jobs were not the right thing for me. And I, in that moment, didn't necessarily want to hear that, but I listened and I took some notes. Terry can be the judge of how well my facial reactions were to what she was saying. Simply put, Terry was just perceiving how I was feeling before I could even take the time to acknowledge my own feelings. And that's a pretty profound thing. And what I'd like to share is what makes this experience so significant, because I think it's an embodiment of Terry and how she approaches mentorship and relationships. There's a lot of things I'd love to share, but I'll share 3 that stand out from this experience. Terry will stay on the phone with you or email until the problem gets solved. And it doesn't matter how long or what the hour of the day is. Terry doesn't care to check the box and say, oh, I did that session or I met with that person. It's about actually helping. It's about actually making the impact, regardless of the minutes or time it takes to get there. So that's number 1. Number 2 is, it's one thing for, Terry to graciously offer her time when mentees ask for it. But Terry takes us to a whole nother level because she reaches out before you can even ask her. And as I was preparing to say a few words here, I spoke with David Liu, who's one of my close friends and a former leader of Brown EP also, and most importantly here, another mentee of Terry's. And that's something he spoke about also, was how Terry's reaching out to him and checking in before he can even ask for help. And that is something that I don't think can be said of many mentors. And that is really special to know that, someone's there for you and thinking about you when sometimes we don't even take the time to think about ourselves and how we're doing. And the third and final thing I'll say here is Terry tells you what you want, not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. So going back to that job anecdote, again, it all checked the boxes, but it was the tone of my voice that Terry could tell this wasn't the right thing. It didn't have the enthusiasm with which I usually spoke. And she called me out on it and said it explicitly. And, we had follow-up conversations to that, but I'm really quite grateful that she felt comfortable doing that, but also had the, courage and just the commitment to me to be able to say that. Terry, I wish I could go on, but the floor is more importantly to give to you. And I'll just say on behalf of so many students, myself included, who are grateful to call you a mentor, I'm honored to get to say congratulations and thank you. And I'll say thank you for how you've influenced startup founders and our businesses. Thank you for how you've made us better entrepreneurs. But most importantly, thank you for how you've made us better people and how you help us think about truly the impact we're making. And you have, if we're so fortunate to serve as mentors ourselves, you have truly set the gold standard for footprints to follow. So thank you and congratulations.
I almost don't know what to say. I tend never to be speechless. Chuck, you give me incredible honor, and I have to tell you, I get more from our relationship than I put in by far. And I think anyone who teaches or mentors has experienced that. So the relationships I've made with you and with many of the people on this Zoom fill my life with blessing. I want to just say a moment about the award itself, because it carrying the name of Barrett Hazeltine makes it feel so big. There is no one who has had more impact on Brown students than Barrett. But then just when it was feeling really, really big and really, really serious, this comes in the mail. And how can you take any award that's a bobblehead of Barrett Hazeltine on a bicycle too seriously? And so I want you all to know this will always sit on my desk, and it will always be a reminder to keep it light and to keep it real. Barrett, I know you as a person who has perhaps the world's best memory, but even you can't possibly remember all the letters that were compiled in a special book for you for your 80th birthday. In my letter, I wrote to you about how I often find myself thinking about the concept of infinity and how in the gazillion, and I was a physics major, so let me say that is a technical mathematical term, the gazillion of lives that you have helped shape, and how all of those people are touching other lives who are touching other lives. When I think about that, it just has mind-blowing impact. And so, Barrett, if I can be perhaps 1/100,000th of your infinity, I will consider that a life really well lived. And my gratitude to you, to all of you. Thank you.
Well, I'd love to, my internet notwithstanding, share a couple things. I have the enormous privilege of reaching out to the recipients each year and letting them know that they are going to be awarded the Hazeltine Mentorship Award in Entrepreneurship. And without fail, every single time I've reached out to the recipients, of course, they're incredibly humble. They all wonder, why me? I haven't really done much to deserve this. And that's true, certainly, of Terry. First words out of her mouth were, I don't feel deserving of this. And of course, you hear from Chuck, and there's a long list of other students who've benefited from Terry. The thing I'd like to emphasize about Terry is that she's been doing this for over 20 years. And in fact, when we were trying to think of who would be an appropriate student to speak on her behalf, she reminded me that there was a student. She said, oh, probably the student I had significant impact on was one named Eric Shashua. And I remember Eric, and she reminded me he was class of 2004. He was formerly the CEO of a company called Zio, which I'm sure Barrett remembers too. And she said, well, decades ago, that's the student founded company for which I probably had the most impact. I mean, think about that. That is almost 20 years ago. And you were wondering, am I deserving? Because it's not like that was the first. It's not like it was the only. It's not like there's been a huge gap. You were very involved in the early, as Stephen probably certainly remembers, very involved in the early days when I was too, of the entrepreneurship program, the student-led program that preceded the Nelson Center. So I've seen you interact with students continually for over 20 years. And so you're absolutely deserving. And with that in mind, that longevity, I'd love for everybody to raise a glass and toast Terry for all the incredible work that she's done on behalf of our students for a long time. And with the hope and expectation, I hope that she will continue to do that from here on out. So here's to you, Terry. Thank you for all
Thank
that
you.
you've
And
done.
I apologize. I will have to raise my imaginary glass.
No problem.
Clink. Thank you.
And with that, I'm going to call on Francesca, who's going to say a few words about our next recipient, Professor Banu Ozkazank-Pan. Francesca is herself an excellent entrepreneur, a former student of mine, an active participant in all elements of the Nelson Center. And so when I asked Banu who might speak on her behalf, she too gave me a list, but we agreed that Francesca would be ideal. So Francesca, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Danny. And hi, everybody. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for having me today. Well, I was honored to be able to speak today and to congratulate you again, Professor Banu. It was, I think, going back in time a little bit. The first time I met you was in one of my classes with Alan Arlem for my social entrepreneurship class. That was the first time when I really wanted to talk to you because I could relate with the story that you shared as a person, I would say an international student coming here, the founder of Umena, which is the nonprofit that I initiated that is focused on breaking the cycle of emotional abuse in my home country, Madagascar. So the first time I met you, I told myself that I wanted to take a class with you. And that class was leadership in organization. And I loved it because it allowed me to, first of all, learn more about myself on how to show up in the world as the leader of the organization. I didn't know really anything around entrepreneurship or leadership when I first came at Brown. And that gave me a lot of insights in how to move concretely forward. And then after this class that I took with you, and I think that Liz is here as well, we took it all together. I reached out to you and I asked you if you would be open to be my advisor for my independent class study. I wanted to focus on fundraising mainly because I wanted to continue the work that I was doing with Umena. I wanted to make sure that my time at Brown as well would allow me to create that. And I reached out to you. We're very excited to have me on. And since then, you have been mentoring me, guiding me, especially having insights on being a woman of color in entrepreneurship, raising money, and realizing that it was normal, not normal, but normalized that it was hard, but understanding the behind the scene and having more, I would say, knowledge and guidance from you was pivotal in that stage of my growth and the growth of the organization. So I just want to say thank you for your guidance, your availability, your presence, your authenticity, and all of our conversations were always breakthroughs for me. Thank you for being a model for us, and congratulations. It's so well deserved.
Thank you so much, Francesca, and so meaningful to see you here today after all our years together. You continue and you have won so many awards and achievements for Umena. It's unbelievably gratifying for me and humbling to see what you are doing and all the other students that I've help mentor, advise. It's incredibly humbling for me to have this award, particularly kind of living in the legacy of Barrett Hazeltine and knowing what big shoes I have to fill in order to succeed in the ways that he has. So it's such an honor to be recognized. When Danny first called me, I was actually at Disney with my family. I'm like, what are you talking about? What award? I didn't know there was an award. So it was incredibly humbling to receive it and to know that the work I do with the students, which I find incredibly important and meaningful, and it actually animates me and my research, particularly if you know me, I do a lot of work on lack of inclusion, and a lot of the students who I work with are finding their way to create these wonderful organizations that actually reach out to folks who may be left behind. So I am deeply honored to share in this award with Terry, and to everyone who is here. Thank you so much. This is incredibly heartwarming. And here's my bobblehead, which also gave me some, some much needed laughs. My kids are like, this is the award? And I said, yeah, Barrett Hazeltine still rides his bike to campus. And he is an amazing, legacy to live up to. So thank you, everyone. It's such a pleasure to receive this, and I am truly humbled and honored.
Thank you, Banu. I'll say a couple things about you. One is that you can blame me for being at Brown. I always remind you of that in times when we, can get a little frustrated about dealing with stuff. But at the same time, we never tire of marveling at the students like Francesca, who are doing amazing things to repair the world, and the world certainly needs that. I never get tired also of bragging about you, and I do to everybody I speak to at Brown, certainly Chris Paxson, and when Rick Locke was here, all the time. And there was a moment where it was uncertain what your status would be at Brown, and it's rare, but occasionally I will break into the provost office and say, we have to do something about something. And one of the couple moments was when I thought you weren't going to be able to be here permanently. And I did break into Rick's office, and he said, oh man, that's terrible. We have to do something about that, because everybody knows how accomplished and capable you are. And so I'm so glad that I did that, because the whole Brown community, the whole entrepreneurship community, the whole Nelson Center is so much better off because of how integrally related and woven into our fabric you are. There's nobody who does the kind of thing you do, probably around the world, better than you do it. We just had an event that highlighted the second book that you're publishing recently through Cambridge University Press. The kind of emphasis you put on diversity and inclusion in entrepreneurship has made that an enormous priority for us. And as you heard from Francesca has had great influence on a whole range of students for whom entrepreneurship might have been this mysterious thing or just a narrowly defined business incubator. And the fact that it is so much more at Brown has so much to do with the kind of influence that you've had on us and our students. So once again, I love the phone call when I called you and I caught you at Disney. And I said, well, I'll be brief, but I have some news that you might enjoy. And just like Terry, you spent most of the phone call trying to talk me out of it, wondering why you? And that kind of humility, I think, is exactly why you. And so I'm going to ask everybody to raise their glass and whatever you have in it, and toast Professor Banu Azkazang Pan.
Thank you.
I'm going to now ask, because we always want to document this, and it's a fun thing to do. We would do it if we were at the faculty club in person. I'm going to ask everybody who's capable of doing this to turn on your camera, and we're going to take a screenshot of as many of you as at least will fit on the screen. And is that you, Tori, or somebody's going to be doing that?
I'm going to take a screenshot. I'm going to get the winners first, and then we'll do one of everybody.
Okay, so we'll follow your instructions.
Okay.
If the winners maybe want to hold up their bobbleheads, that would be good.
Well, congratulations to everybody, and thank you all. Well, I shouldn't say it that way. Thank you, Benu, and thank you, Terry, for all you did, and congratulations. And just so pleased to see both of you, and just so pleased to have both of you honored. Thank you.
All right,
Thank
we'll
you,
do a
Barrett.
photo
Thank you,
in
Barrett.
1,
Barrett, thank you for the endless inspiration.
Tori, we get the photos.
I got the photo. Thank you. And then I'll do a 1 with the group.
So we're going to close the formal part of our event, but I think as Don Stanford's family kicked this off when we first did this remotely in 2020, everybody's welcome to stay around, and you can say something if you'd like to the recipients or to those who spoke on their behalf, or if you'd like to reconnect with people you haven't seen in a while. And we'll leave this open for as long as anybody would like. I remember like an hour. So I don't know that we'll beat that record, and nobody should feel compelled to stick around. The day, at least in Providence, Rhode Island, is beautiful. And if you'd like to participate wherever you are, feel free. But at least the Nelson Center team and the winners will stick around for a couple minutes at least, just to be willing to interact with all of you. Thank you all for coming. And I hope all of you, those of you who will be on campus during commencement, will be 4 to 6 on Saturday, commencement reception and startup fair. As always, any of the information you'd like to hear about our events or staying in the loop is available at entrepreneurship.brown.edu.